Hello, investors. It's Don Vandenbord, Senior Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Monday, December 11th, 5:13 p.m. Eastern Time, coming to you from St. Augustine Beach, Florida, with tonight's Revere Market Insight video. State of the market, we're in an uptrend since the O'Neill follow-through days on November 1st and 2nd. Check the trend gauge over here, all green for the first time in a long time. Market leadership acting just fine. And then all five of the major indexes are trending above their three time frames that we track. That's the short-term 21-day moving average, medium-term 50-day moving average, long-term 200-day moving average. So what happened today? Semiconductors, the first CHIPS Act grant was paid out, and that sparked the semiconductors to a big rally and really leading the indexes higher. New rally highs across the board on the indexes, despite the fact that the big seven were all red. Here are the numbers on the day. Kind of surprising to see the NASDAQ 100 up 0.85%, while the big seven were down. The FNGS, as in Sam, that's the big seven plus three additional big stocks. The big three are Netflix, NVIDIA, and Snow. Those three were all up. So the big seven, or the FANG plus 10 stock index, FNGS, was positive on the day, but very clear performance by the big seven, with the strength across the board. This is kind of what happens when the market first starts rallying. It's safe to throw money into the big seven when it looks like we're going to broaden out and show some more strength. Money frequently comes out of those big seven and into some other sectors, and that's pretty consistently what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. RG8, this is our 8 growth ETF composite, up 0.5%. S&P opened down 0.1%, put in the lows right out of the gate, ended up positive by 0.39%, even better. The equal weighted RSP up 0.89%. I mentioned the NASDAQ 100 positive. QQEW, the equal weighting of that NASDAQ 100, up even more, up 1.88%. Again, that's really semi-heavy. Dow Jones Industrial Average up 0.4, mid caps up 0.5%, Russell 2000, the laggard, up 0.15%, Global 60/40 stock and bond up 0.21%, mostly all stocks as broad bond indexes were near flat. In-house GROTECTION up 0.15%, dragged down by our Bitcoin exposure, BITO and CION. Bitcoin had a rough weekend and was down 8.5% on the day, and that took coin with it, down 5.87%. We'll get into the portfolio and some charts. Let's kick it off. We'll also do the tail of the tape, of course. Here's the S&P 500 making higher highs, second close above that 46.7 level and above the 46.07 high from back in July. Bring up a weekly chart here. We got to see our next two resistance levels. 46.37, that's the high from late March 2022. The all-time highs 48.19. This is back in January of 2022, coming up on 2 years there, but looking like a cup and handle breakout now. See if it continues to stick, as we've got some big data points coming in that might impact the indexes this week, mainly CPI tomorrow and the FOMC decision and press conference on Wednesday. Here's the NASDAQ 100. Relative strength over the last week after having a week of relative weakness, making higher highs, up 0.85%. Let's go to the Dow. Dow continues to make higher highs, also quite a move up off this 32,327 low from back in October, riding the 8 EMA higher. Looking great. Midcaps, MDY, not quite at a higher high, but right where we were last Wednesday. After this is good. You take a step up, you consolidate. You take another step up, you consolidate. We're in that consolidation range for 6 sessions now after the new highs were made on 12/4, so a week ago Monday. IWM, same situation, consolidating for 6 sessions now after bouncing off the 8 EMA. This looks like new closing highs above the 12.4 highs. So again, stepping up, going sideways, stepping up. That's a healthy market. That's what you want to see. Let's go to the VIX. VIX up just a tad. It had been very low, up 2.3%. It still is very low at a 12.63 value. Let's go to the dollar. UUP, tight range today, slightly higher. Gold stocks and silver taking a hit, making lower lows. Another gap down here. Gold down 1.1%. GDX, we stopped out of our last piece of this on Friday. It closed at the top of the range, but still down 0.44%. And silver down 0.9%, 6. That's a waterfall looking thing there for silver, down 6 days in a row. Bitcoin, I mentioned after the big run, a big gap down today, ugly candle, broke the lows of the gap up day from 12.4, still holding the 21-day exponential moving average, but breaking back below the 8 EMA. We took a little bit of our Bitcoin position off on this gap down and break of the gap up day highs. Still holding it, but very volatile here. You know, there's no fundamentals. This thing, you can trade thinly after hours. We like it when it's going higher. We're going to participate when it's going higher. We're going to stay away from it if it's not outperforming stocks. So that's Bitcoin. Let's go to bonds. Broad bond index, BND, just barely flat today, but closing at the top of the range. TLT, this one down a bit, 0.21%. So that means the long bond yield was up by 0.12%. We've got a 30-year bond auction tomorrow that we need to keep an eye on. The market has taken a couple of hits over the last few weeks with weak longer-term bond auctions, although we survived a 10-year bond auction today. So that's TYX, TNX, the 10-year down slightly. Let's go to the tail of the tape, and then we'll take a look at a few more charts. There you are. You can pause this. I'm going to hit the highlights. So the CHIPS Act paid out its first grant today, and as I said, that was what sparked the semiconductors to be strong all day. SOXX Semiconductor broad index up 3.4%. Day count, third day up. Third day above the 8 EMA, 27th above the 21 EMA. Broad participation in sectors that were up, as you can see here, including retail and semiconductors and software. On the downside, really just XLC, which is Google and Meta. And with them being down today, as they're being two of the big seven, that hit the XLC. Regional banks just barely negative today. The big seven, obviously, gold and silver stocks. So for the portfolio, snow broke out of a cup and handle base today. We added to that. We trimmed NVIDIA on weakness. All the other semis were flying. That a takeaway from that could be that money coming out of NVIDIA and into some possible better opportunities in some of the other semiconductors. AMD, which we own, had another fantastic day. Trimmed Bitcoin, did some offensive trimming on Nail as ITB made its fourth day at the top of the range of +4 ATR. Expect a pullback there. Bottom line on the day, semiconductors lead indexes to new rally highs despite the big seven being all red. Let's take a look at some individual charts now. Let's start off with what we traded today. Here's ITB. And you can see how extended this is. I'm going to bring in our ATR chart from Thinkorswim, and it'll be very clear. As you can see, this just riding between the 3 and the 3rd ATR higher. Fourth day up, we booked a 25% gain on another piece of that as that continues to act extremely well. The Bitcoin that we trimmed, BITO, already showed this chart, but with that gap down, we booked a 16% gain on another piece of that. NVIDIA, the trim was for a small loss. Let's take a look at that as it didn't hold the 8 and the 21 while all other semiconductors were flying. Let's take a look at SOX, SOXX. It's the semiconductor index. You can see the clear breakout of a cup and handle there, up 3.41%. What else? And snow. Let me show the snow breakout. Uh, Pulled back a bit to the pivot, was a lot stronger earlier in the day, gave back a little bit in the afternoon. You can see we're right around a little bit of resistance here from back in June and July, which corresponds to the top of that cup. But after a nice consolidation, about a week and a half consolidation after its big move up on earnings, trying to take the next step higher, we've got a max position in that now of 7%. Let's take a look at a few other charts. Well, let's take a look at what we own in the portfolio. Here's AMD making after that event, and they talked about how they've got they've got the capacity to be able to increase the number of chips because they're not only using Taiwan Semiconductor, they're also using Samsung. As opposed to NVIDIA, which is kind of restrained from increasing their supply. So the market seems to be catching on to that fact that the CEO mentioned in an interview after that symposium and their presentation last week. So AMD looks like it wants to be the leader on look at the big blue bars here, massive volume on that move up after this nice cup and handle breakout. So there's AMD. IoT had a strong close today after bouncing off the 8 EMA last week, still consolidating right at the top of this range. CCJ, no change to this today. We took a position in this on Friday. Coin, this pulled back pretty hard. Our second buy is now underwater on this, but still holding above the 8 EMA. GTLB had a nice close today, also right around that 60 area, consolidating its nice move out of the flat base, stage 1 base. We're more likely to be putting the bigger position. I've talked about, really the desire is to have 6 to 8 names with a 6 to 8% size, and then the other half of the portfolio in sector or index ETFs. A breakout of a stage 1 base, this is where we want to get the max position on as quickly as possible, but not before it's too extended. So there's GTLB, ESTC. We've done 3 buys on this as it continues to work its way higher after its earnings gap up. I showed in a video on the pullback. CrowdStrike continues to just be a champ. Might see some pausing here around this 250 area, kind of a Livermore level where stocks sometimes pause. There's snow with the breakout again. That's a stage 1 cup and handle breakout too. So stage 1, that's why we got our max position size on that now. And with that, let's take a look at a couple of other names. MDB, which had a big negative reaction to earnings last week. Some volume came into it today as it's attempting to repair its pattern. There's MDB, had some volume, double average volume above the 400 level, but pulled back right to the 21 EMA. Zscaler, another cybersecurity stock that just looks great. Sentinel-1 gapped up on earnings last week, pulled back to the pivot. Another stage 1 base breakout. We don't own this. We're sticking with CrowdStrike, but that's looking pretty good as well. Let's see, anything looking rough? How about ARM? Had a breakout. It's an IPO-based breakout. Back to the pivot today on 34% above average volume, but much lighter volume than the breakout. So keep an eye on that. And there's one more I wanted to show, Affirm pulling back. This is possibly the strongest stock in the market, going on a very big run after this break above this cup base the Monday after Thanksgiving, when it was reported that Amazon's partnership with them saw just a lot of volume and price going into their buy now, pay later product. That's going to wrap it. As always, like to hear from you. The email is don@revereasset.com. We respond to all comments on YouTube as well. So please like and subscribe. That helps the algos get our content into other people's streams. And then if you're interested in becoming a client, email my partner, Dan Stewart, dan@revereasset.com. You have a question, the phone is 855-REAL-WEALTH. That's 855-732-5932. Remember, it's not how much you make in the market, it's how much of that you can keep. We continue to watch our balances go higher as the market rallies. If a change in character comes in like a failure near this 4,600 level and a break of the 21 EMA, we'll get more defensive. But for now, looking good. Although, as I mentioned, quite a few economic numbers coming out, and the FOMC decision and press conference on Wednesday always causes volatility. With that, I'll wrap up the video for Monday, December 11th. This is Don Vandenbord with Revere Asset Management, telling it like it is. Thanks for listening and have a great day.